Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dot to Dot. Well, in the last episode of The Curse of Oak Island, Alex Lagina said something very profound. And he said, if Xena's map is real, then it's the best lead we have. Well, it was about 2 years ago that I had sort of the same idea. And I said to myself, if Xena's map is authentic, then it must have a purpose directly related to Oak Island and the mystery. But what is that purpose? So this is Zena's map, or I like to call it the Rochefoucauld map because it's addressed to Francois Rochefoucauld up here in the upper right-hand corner. And this map was acquired by a man named Bill Jackson. Now, I did a video on this called The Key of Bill Jackson, and I'll leave a link in the description if you'd like to watch it. But this was discovered in the back of a book called Palestine Before the Hebrews, which was written by a man named Anadi. And Bill Jackson left a note in the back of another book called The Introduction of Anthropology. And it starts out with saying, Anadi holds the key now. That's why I use this page. And it was written on the last page of that book. And this map was found inserted into a little hidden pocket on the last page of the book that Anadi wrote. And that's how they found it. Now, it wasn't the only thing that was found there. Also, another document called La Formula was found there. And here's La Formula. And at the bottom of La Formula was also this note called the Marie note. And here's the Zena Halpern, the Rochefoucauld map. And this is another document that is in the vault theory, which is called the Ontr schematic. And this is in a book called The Scrolls of Ontr, written by Don Rue. Now, it was Don Rue, in the presence of Zena Halpern and a man named Harry Weimer, that found these two documents in the back of that book. Now, it's Olivier from Oak Island Research and myself. We have taken these documents and found connections and found some remarkable things coming out of them, especially the Rochefoucauld map. And it was this that we developed the vault theory. Now, it was the beginnings of this was Olivier from Oak Island Research was the one who initiated the opening up through out-of-the-box thinking and his expertise in French and his knowledge of ciphers and ways of encoding and encrypting hidden data, I guess you would say. And he's the one that decoded up here the anomalies in petite and in set, which set up this geometry here, right here, this set line, and also this little V that wanders with this little kind of drawing right here. And this sets up points right to the middle of this quadrant, which sets up an east-west line. Now, it was through the discovery of these other clues that I found that there was some connections here, this clue here pointing here, and then the bark with the lining up of the bark puts an intersection here. And when you split this line, or when you bisect these two angles, the perpendicular, which is given by the quadrant here, the perpendicular lines up with Nolans cross, and we'll see that in a minute. Now, the important thing is this little nub here is the same as this one here, and they are related. And this distance is measured from here to here, and it is put perpendicular to this bisected angle line, and it is brought to this point and then doubled to this right here. And this sets up what they call the landing. And this is the landing. And when this is when a line is taken from this point down to the point where the set line ends at this underlying of the 1347, this blue line, the scale of this blue line is assigned as 1347 pi. Now, knowing that, we can assign the value of this line to 400 pi. So this is 1347 pi, just like this says, and this becomes 400 pi. Now we know that from this point to this point is 800 pi. Now, the other thing is too, is this line will extend and end up at Frog Island. And these are the clues that are in the Rochefoucauld map. And what that begins is an orientation that basically brings this geometry to Oak Island. And you'll see in a minute that this actually becomes cone D on Nolans Cross. And this is the headstone, and this will be cone C. And here it is oriented east-west, which actually ends up, and there's some boulders on Round Island. It ends up east-west, and when you point this to the point right here, it shows on the clue at Frog Island, it becomes oriented and scaled to Oak Island. But importantly, out of this whole map, there's three things or several things that come out of it, and I'll show you in a minute. But one is the location of La Hampe. So the center of the quadrant becomes what is called La Hampe. Now that's important because it's connected to La Formula. Another thing that's connected to La Formula is this line, which the quadrant arrow to the north points now in a 45-degree angle. This is heading due southeast and south northwest. So this is a 45-degree angle. So those are important clues, because when we look at the next document, La Formula, we'll understand it a little better. So when you take away the map and you orient it on Google Earth, and this probably could never be discovered unless I had Google Earth. There's no way. But this is the initial, the 400 pi to 400 pi. This is right here. This is what I call the bark. And then we extend it out to the bateau. And this distance from cone E to the north anchor is 1347 pi, or 1444 feet. And this is your 45-degree angle that starts from cone A that goes through La Hampe and goes down to basically the oak entrance. So here it is, the Nolans Cross, the north anchor. Here's the 429 extension. But here's the 45. And if we take the 1347 pi and we center it on cone E, we have an intersection here from the 45-degree angle. Now this becomes the oak entrance. We also have our first line that goes out 1347, and this will become the hole under the trap door reference on Zena's map. Now we only have one here, so there's another one that's coming that I'll show you in a minute. Another thing is directly due south from La Hampe and due east from the oak entrance area there, you come to the south anchor. Now, if you take the 1347 pied again, and you center it over the north anchor and one over the south anchor, you get the intersection, which on Zena's map becomes triangle 2. Now, here's La Formula. Now, La Formula is a coded cipher that's, when deciphered, it gives you a French message, which is right here. And notice in the French message, there is the word La Hampe, which means translated the pole. And this is the message that is decoded by Olivier from Oak Island Research. And notice the 45-degree angle here is mentioned. And also we will understand that we have to dig 40 feet at the oak entrance. We will dig 40 feet down, and then we will dig at 40 feet. We will dig at an angle of 45 degrees, and we will come to an opening which from 522, this is actually pied, 522 pied, we will hit La Hampe. Now, the other thing on La Formula was what's called the Marine Note, and the Marine Note has a hidden distance of 1978 pied. It also references 7 and 1, which we'll see in a minute. And there's other 2 references. I won't get into them, which is the V over the E and the 80 degrees, which is the 80-degree heading. This is the heading that was going towards Frog Island. That line that went to Frog Island is a heading of 80 degrees true. So this is the 1978 pied, and it emanates, it starts from the 429 extension, and it is the second reference to bring you to, it intersects with the 1347 pied that goes to the hole under the trapdoor. And this is the second basically reference to set this point at this distance. So, and this 1978 pied actually goes through cone C, which is very interesting. Now, the thing about the valve is the calculation of these 3 points that we know, and it is a parallelogram, just like the Batau was in the Nolans cross. Another thing is too is the vault is due north from triangle 2. Now, it's interesting because it leads me to another conclusion. Are these real points? And we'll get to that later. This is the note at the bottom of the Marine Note that was from Tim McGinnis to to Bill Jackson, and it says 1 of 7, and 1 of 7 is mentioned. If you remember, it will be mentioned in the La Formula, the Marine Note. It said 1 of 7, or it said 7 of 1, January, I think it was January 7th. So, but this has another connection here. It also has a reference to what we're going to see is the Ontr schematic. So back to the note that Bill Jackson wrote. Remember, he said Anati holds the key now. That's why I used this page. But he also wrote a whole much more that was after that, which said the Frenchman was right. They wanted the information about the tunnels. So they bought the document from me, but they didn't get them. Who has it now? I think it was broken up into 8 pieces. I have 4. What happened to the rest? So this is talking about this. This is the Ontr schematic. And if you look at this piece right here, it is the same piece as La Formula. It's the same shape. Now this is 7 pieces. However, this top piece right here was ripped. It was broken. So really, it's actually 8 pieces, but the cutout pieces are 7 pieces. So here's the tunnel system. And this tunnel system is basically the redrawn of what we just saw. And if you look at here, the A, B, C, and G, A through G right here, is referenced from La Formula. A is where you dig 40 feet down and go at a 45-degree angle. B is where you enter into this tunnel, and 522 pi you will intercept C, which is La Hump, and then 1065 pi you will enter the vault or the chamber. So this is reference to La Formula. And then on this side, you have the references in the Xena helper map. This is the valve. This is the trap door or the hatch, and F is the hole. So we have the hole under the trap door and the valve. So we got the hole under the hatch, the valve. Now we also have the basin and the dam. Now all these are related to a hydraulic system. And we know that the hole under the hatch was part of the hydraulic system because we saw it on the schematic. And we also saw the valve. But where does the basin and the dam come in? Well, if we take a literal interpretation of what was on Xena's map, this would be the configuration of the flood tunnel system, which is on the Ontr schematic. And perhaps it is this way. But there's one question we have to ask. Where is the access and where does the water go? Because we know how to get to the vault, but we don't know how to get to the valve and the hole under the hatch. So how do you get into this? Because you have to do something there. And where does the water go afterwards? We don't know. So in my reference to the Batao and also the parallelogram, I started to think about the headstone. And I started to think about the geometry of a parallelogram. And the thing about the parallelogram is they have, even though they're different in shape, they have similar values, geometric principles that apply to them. Another thing is these two parallelograms have a median chord that is 1347 pi. We have the headstone in the middle, and we have a middle here where I believe is where you may enter into an access tunnel. It may be the valve, but it may be here. So if you head underground here and you go due east, you will hit what is called the barrage or the dam. Now, what is the dam? Oh, first, I just wanted to throw this in here that, all these things that they found, especially like the cannon piece of bronze that they found, the Romans have been doing this kind of technology since the Roman period. So building these kinds of hydraulic systems is not something new. And they actually used metal pieces to direct their aqueducts. So the barrage is basically, in this concept, the barrage is the valve and the hatch. This whole mechanism to hold the water back from going to basically to keep the vault afloat. So this is the barrage and the basin concept. The basin is the place where the water would go. So in the vault being in the up position, in other words, inaccessible, it is being blocked by this valve. Here we have the hole, and it is under a hatch. The next thing you would do would be to remove the cover of the hole. And you may pull it up, and this is just speculation. There's nothing I have that indicates. I'm just thinking about how this may be done. Is the hole will be unplugged, pulled up through the hatch, and then set down. And then the valve would be opened, and the water from the flood that is holding up the vault will lower, and the access to the vault will be there. So this is a close-up of the Xena Halpern's map. This is the line that goes to the dam right here. And this is the line that goes to the basin. So I look at this. Olivier has looked at this. And we see something there that's sort of interesting. What do you see? Well, that's it for today. I thank you very much. Like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.